So Donald Trump has caught quite a bit of flack over his executive order to ban Muslims. And every angle, this story actually unfolds on so many different levels. One, I want to start with the fact that conservatives have long attacked President Obama by ruling via edict and attacking him for all of the executive orders that he signed, and yet they have celebrated very loudly the onslaught of executive orders from President Trump. I have to put that at the top because it shows you the emptiness of their sincerity. And I don't point it out for us to say, ha, 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 you're hypocritical. I point it out for us to say, never regard a single feeling, argument, anything from conservatives, because they are soulless. They are beyond hypocritical. They are beyond opportunistic. They are monsters. Why would we ever regard what they have to say? And the best demonstration of their monstrosity, I guess, the best demonstration of how devoid of substance and character they are is this ban of Muslims. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is this attempt to say it's not a ban on Muslims. Well, that's not true. That's not true because the intent is everything. Donald Trump promised on the campaign trail that he was going to ban Muslims. Can't remember? Here it is.
Is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
All right. His own words. So his intention during the campaign was to ban Muslims. Yeah, Ben, but that doesn't mean that he actually was going to do it when he got into office. All right. Evidence 2, Exhibit B would be Rudy Giuliani on Fox and whatever this lady's name is.
How did the president decide the 7 countries? I understand the permanent ban on the refugees.
Okay.
Okay, talk to me.
Tell you the whole history of it. So
right.
When he first announced it, he said Muslim ban. He called me up. He said, put a commission together. Show me the right way to do it legally. I put a commission together with Judge Mukasey, with Congressman McCall, Pete King, whole group of other very expert lawyers on this. And what we did was we focused on, instead of religion, danger. The areas of the world that create danger for us, which is a fact.
All right. So Exhibit B, Rudy Giuliani was approached by President-elect or President Trump, depends on when this conversation took place, and he expressed to him again that he wanted to institute a ban on Muslims. Then he said, how can I do it legally? And Giuliani said, well, we can't do it based on religion. And so he gives them 7 countries that are based on risk, et cetera, et cetera. But the intent is clear. Can we get past this fatuous defense of Donald Trump? Well, actually, I'm going to unpack the hell out of this in a second because it shows you exactly what we're dealing with. Donald Trump wanted to ban Muslims. Donald Trump wanted to ban Muslims during his campaign. When he got elected, he wanted to find out how he could ban Muslims. Rudy Giuliani said we can't do it based on religion. And so he came up with this as the closest substitute as he possibly could. And so people are saying, oh, this is not a ban on Muslims, but the intent is clear. And I won't even go into the nations that he did not choose, right? The other Muslim nations that he did not choose. But here's what I want to point out. All of these people who are now defending Donald Trump, particularly conservatives who are defending Donald Trump, saying, oh, it's not a ban on Islam. Wait a minute. Isn't that what made you like him in the first place? Didn't you run behind and support? Oh, he's going to ban Muslims and because we got to figure out what the hell we're going to do. That's why you liked him in the first place. You should be upset at Donald Trump for trying to weasel his way out of his campaign promise of banning Muslims. But because this is a team sport, politics is a team sport, and because they can never let their team be wrong, they would rather change the very reason they supported Donald Trump, because they're clear on their bigotry. Let's not, they are clear on their bigotry. They would gladly ban, their entire intent and desire was to ban Muslims. They celebrated that. And so they are now willing to weasel away from that just to protect their to protect Donald Trump, which shows you they are so devoid of any substance and any moral center, that they can't even hold true to their own bigotry. Like, what drives you, if not the bigotry that you used to elect Donald Trump when he promised to ban Muslims? The only thing that drives these people is the ability to be able to get on social media and say, ha, we won. No, you expose yourself to be not only bigots, but weasels who are willing to weasel their way out of this based on the technicality that they could not institute the actual Muslim ban because it would be fully unconstitutional, even though they really wanted to do a Muslim ban. They're just too cowardly to run up headlong against the Constitution. They don't want to be wrong. But it looks like they're running up against the Constitution anyway, because there's plenty in this completely unconstitutional. We were at Boston Logan Airport Saturday night when the decision came down. The stay came down from a federal judge, several federal judges, but the widest reaching one was here in Boston. The federal judge who put a stay on the executive order, and some of the commentary coming from the ACLU lawyers was that it was based on the likely unconstitutionality of the executive order. So even in their attempt to weasel away from their original bigoted intent, they still ran headlong into the Constitution. You might as well have gone ahead and just said, this is a Muslim ban. But you don't have enough heart to even back up your own bigotry. That's number two. There's a lot to do. There's a lot going on in this story. Number three, this cowardly tactic. I probably did. But I wonder if the conservatives realize how spineless they look, cowering behind President Obama as the justification for this executive order. In two different ways, they're trying to do this. Number one, they're trying to point to a 2011 ban on Iraqi refugees instituted by President Obama. And this is what Donald Trump himself said. He said, my policy is similar to what President Obama did in 2011 when he banned visas for refugees from Iraq for 6 months. Then seven countries named in the executive order are the same, or these 7 countries named in the executive order are the same countries previously identified by the Obama administration as sources of terror. So he's doing two things at once. He's identifying the 2011 ban on refugees from Iraq, and we'll unpack that. And then he's pointing to a piece of legislation that President Obama signed in 2015, which was actually an omnibus bill, which was an entire, if you know what an omnibus bill, you realize everything is jam-packed into the omnibus bill. The omnibus bill was sponsored by Republicans. And considering, now I'm not going to try to justify President Obama because there's plenty that he has done wrong in his administration, but the omnibus bill was sponsored by Republicans. It was passed by a Republican-controlled Senate and a Republican-controlled Congress, and it contained budgetary items. What did you expect President Obama to do? He signed it. So, yes, he is culpable in identifying these 7 nations. However, this was not something that President Obama identified as these are our threats, and so I'm going to institute a ban on these 7 countries. We actually have to unpack what was written inside of the actual legislation. But that's besides the point. Big bad Donald Trump was so shaken up by the protests that he's now seeking cover under President Obama. And conservatives who are just as spineless and cowardly as their Fuhrer, they too are seeking cover underneath President Obama, which begs the question. Are you guys in love with President Obama now? I mean, really, think about it. If Donald Trump did something that you liked and you believe that it was made possible by President Obama, means that conservatives should be thanking President Obama. And collective heads of conservatives are exploding because they can't deal with the cognitive dissonance. All right. But more specifically, let's go to the one that Donald Trump identified very clearly. He talked about the 2011 ban of Iraqi refugees. Number one, Obama's quote unquote ban on refugees. And this is according to Foreign Policy. John Feiner actually wrote a beautiful piece, insightful piece, not really beautiful. It was very insightful. He said that Obama's was focused on citizens of a single country. And then only, he said, quote, and then only to refugees and applicants for special immigrant visas. The Trump executive order applies to 7 countries with total populations of more than 130 million people and to virtually every category of immigrant other than diplomats, which includes tourists and business travelers. So President Obama identified a problem with refugees from Iraq, very specific to that nation, because we have had incidents where people were able to circumvent our immigration process and be a terror threat, right? So there was a situation where there was an immigrant who was implicated in a terrorist act who got through our process. And so President Obama, trying to protect America and all that jargon, instituted this ban. But it was not a blanket ban like Donald Trump has done. All right, let's keep going. The Obama administration did not ban visas for refugees, according to the same article by John Feiner. He did not ban visas for refugees from Iraq for 6 months. He said refugees don't travel on visas. Duh. And this effectively delayed processing, but it didn't stop it altogether. He wanted to create an orderly process that included input from involved agencies. The entire purpose, this is the linchpin of the entire article in Foreign Policy. He said the entire purpose of the Obama administration's 2011 review was to enhance the already stringent vetting to which refugees and special visas applicants were subjected. So it's problematic on both sides because it's clearly not apples to apples, but who cares? But it's problematic also because it's Donald Trump hiding behind President Obama. He does not have enough backbone to stand behind his own policies without saying, oh, but President Obama did something just like this. It's a very cowardly tactic. And because he could not take responsibility for the backlash we saw across the nation. Not just in the liberal coastal cities. Yes, New York, Washington, D.C., Boston turned out. 20,000 people turned out to Copley Square yesterday here in Boston. It was a beautiful sight. About 500 turned up to Boston Logan Airport on Saturday night. I was actually there. The Mayor Marty Walsh showed up. Elizabeth Warren showed up. But it showed the solidarity that people had against this Muslim ban, because the intent is everything. And if you ask the difference between the number one difference between what President Obama did in 2011 and what he signed in the Omnibus Act of 2015, December 2015, the intent is everything. Donald Trump's intent was perfectly clear.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
The intent was clear. He wanted to ban Muslims, but he's too cowardly to just stand behind that. One, because it was unconstitutional, but two, because he just could not handle the backlash that ensued from across America. Kudos, big shout out, big hand, round of applause to the ACLU, to CARE, to all of the agencies that got involved and helped coordinate, and to all the leftist organizations that had the networks for protests. Protests like that don't just spring up overnight. Protests like that are the result. I was reading Emmett Tinson, I can't think his last name, on Twitter, Emmett Rinson, and he directly connected to protests and the organization structures that have been put in place since Occupy Wall Street and Black Lives Matter, and the ability for us to protest at the drop of a dime. And that's what it's going to take from now on. Oh, last bit of evidence. I'm sorry. I was getting ready to close my case. Exhibit C. Exhibit C, Michael Flynn Jr. Michael Flynn is one of President Trump's appointees. Michael Flynn Jr. was a part of the transition team. He was subsequently put off of the transition team because he tweeted in support of Pizzagate, which is highly debunked, but that's neither here nor there. This was his tweet. He said, Michael Flynn Jr. said, "Making America great again, hashtag Muslim ban." There you go. Intent is everything. And my thing is, if you're going to be bad and jump up and your intention is to do A, don't weasel your way out of it by, one, blaming someone else, and then two, trying to redefine it. Just have enough nerve to be the bigoted SOBs that you are.